Hi, I'm Arden. Welcome to my kitchen. This is the food I eat. Today I'm going to make beef meatballs with tomato sauce. First thing I'm going to do is mix my spices because that's the cleanest and easiest thing. I'm going to use 2 bowls for my spices, one to go in the meatballs and one to go in the sauce. And I am not particularly good about measuring my spices, but if you want to, then I would suggest about a teaspoon for each of the spices except for oregano, which I would do a tablespoon. So this is marjoram that I'm starting with. And then I'm going to put in a little bit of thyme. And a little bit of basil. And oregano. Now this is the one I'm using for the sauce, so I'm going to put more oregano in here. And then this one I'm going to use for the meatballs, so I'm going to put some cumin in here, ground cumin. Maybe in between a teaspoon and a tablespoon for that. And then also some ground black pepper. And for the meatballs, I'm going to use a finer Celtic sea salt. And for the sauce, I'm going to use a coarse Celtic sea salt. A tablespoon of that. And then it's handy just to give your spices a little swirl and get them mixed up. Now I'm making my life easier today because I'm going to use hot peppers that I chopped a couple days ago and put into a bag when I was doing a different dish. That can always save you a little bit of time, is that if you do a little bit of extra and you put it in the fridge, it works like magic. This is the best way to store your fresh herbs, is with a wet paper towel wrapped around the bottom in a baggie and put it in the refrigerator. And this is fresh parsley from my garden, which I'm also going to add to my herb mixture. And do half for your sauce and half for your meatballs. You also want to split the hot peppers half and half between the sauce herbs and the meatball herbs. And what I've got in here is cayenne, jalapeno, and hot banana pepper that are fresh from my garden. And I'm not going to put my fingers on these, even though I've de-seeded and de-pithed it, which is the hottest part. Now I'm going to move on to the garlic. And I'm going to use a whole head of garlic. All I'm going to do to the garlic is cut it in half to give myself a flat bed to work on. And then slice it and go the other direction. Okay, now I'm just going to put a little bit in with my meat herbs here, and then all the rest of this I'm going to saute with my onions, so I'm just going to leave it sitting right here. I've got my garlic ready. I'm going to set it aside, and while I do the onions, I'm going to start heating up the pan. So I'm going to set it to medium-low. Now I'm going to move on to the onions. These also are fresh from the market. Come around, cut them the other way. Got all my onions chopped, and I'm ready to go into the pan, where it's been heating with 3 tablespoons of butter, which I want to give a swirl around to get the bottom of the pan coated. And I'm also going to add in the garlic to this. And you're going to saute this until the onions start to turn translucent. I'm going to add some bell peppers into this. I'm going to add a red and a green. I'm just going to add right into the ground beef. I'm going to put my peppers aside to put into the sauce later. Before I start preparing my meatballs, I'm going to turn on the pan, again to a medium-low heat with a pat of butter. Now for the meatballs, I've got a couple pounds of ground beef that I've added my peppers into. And I'm also going to use a couple of eggs to bind the mixture. Make sure that you remember to stir your onions and garlic while they're in this process. I'm just going to whisk the eggs. And then I'm going to add my spices into the eggs and get that mixed in first. So I'm going to pick up little wads and put them into balls. And you can either make side on your bowl here to go with your finished balls, or you can use a different dish. Now my pan is hot, my butter has been spread around, and I'm going to add the meatballs in. Now the trick here is that you're going to be tempted to put as many meatballs as you can fit in the pan. Do not do that, because then you'll have nowhere to move. Now that I've started my meatballs and my onions are beginning to turn translucent, what I'm going to add to them is tomato soup that I've made previously. Then you want to add in your spices, which are almost exactly the same to the ones in the meatballs, except for in that I added cumin, which in the sauce there is no cumin, but there was extra oregano. Now very delicately you're going to try to maneuver your meatballs around the pan. You don't need to be worried about cooking them all the way through in this process, because we're going to do that with the sauce in the oven, which I'll start preheating. And I just want to roll them around until all the sides are brown. And if for any reason one of them doesn't stay whole, no worries. Now I'm just going to transfer them over here into the baking dish. Okay, so now that I'm on my last batch of meatballs, I'm going to add my peppers into my sauce. Alright, so once you've got all your meatballs browned and put into this pot, then you want to ladle your sauce in. And then you put your cover back on and put it in your preheated oven. And you want to bake this for about 20 to 30 minutes at 350 degrees. Okay, it's been about half an hour and I've used the time to clean my kitchen. Voila! It's ready to serve and eat. And if you like, you can put a little bit of shredded Munster or any other kind of cheese that you tolerate on top of it. Enjoy! Bon appetit!